Napoleon lived from 1769 to 1821. He was a French military and political leader who rose to power during the later stages of the French Revolution and its associated wars with Europe. Born in Corsica, through the next few years his rank in military continuously rose. Varus, Napoleon's ally and member of the Directory, helped. He even helped him meet Josephine, his first wife, and then becomes the first empress. By November, the Directory was established. In 1796, Napoleon is given command of the French army, and soon after, the campaign against Austria begins. In July of 1798, Napoleon begins his Egyptian campaign. On August 3rd, the British fleet destroys the French navy, and Napoleon's army is cut off. In 1799, receiving news of turmoil in France, Napoleon relinquishes command in Egypt and returns to Paris, the so-called coup d'état. In November, the coup of Barnemy occurs. It's when Napoleon overthrows the Directory and establishes the French consulate. The coup of 18 Barnemy brought Napoleon to power as the first consul of France, and, in the view of most historians, ended the French Revolution. In 1801, he creates the Concordat, an agreement between Napoleon and Pope Pius V11. Also, the first lycée was established under the educational reforms of Napoleon. It was an upper-level secondary school preparing pupils for the bureaucrat. The lycée was divided into three types: classical, modern, and scientific technological studies. In 1802, Napoleon changed the French educational system and also adopted a new constitution which confirms Napoleon as the first consul for life. In 1804, Napoleon introduced the Civil Code, aka the Napoleonic Code. This code gave post-revolutionary France its first coherent set of laws concerning property, colonial affairs, family, and individual rights. It didn't allow privileges based on birth. It allowed freedom of religion and set up a system of civil service where government jobs would go to the most qualified. In May, Napoleon becomes emperor by crowning himself with the approval of the Senate and the Pope. In 1809, he divorced from Josephine, and in 1810 married Mary Louise of Austria, and in 1811 his son is born. On April 4th, 1814, Napoleon abdicates his rule for Louis XV111, and Louis is restored to the throne. In April, with the Treaty of Fontainebleau, Napoleon agrees to exile in Elba if his family has paid pension. When exiled, his wife and son took refuge in Vienna. In 1815, on February 26th, Napoleon escaped from Elba and later arrived in Paris. This is the beginning of the 100 Days. The Napoleonic era ended during the 100 Days with his defeat at the Battle of Waterloo, or a few days later when he was abdicated for the second time. Then on October 16th, Napoleon was exiled to St. Helena. In 1821, on May 5th, Napoleon died in exile. In summary, the Battle of Waterloo on June 18, 1815, marked the final defeat of French military leader and Emperor Napoleon, who has conquered much of the continental Europe in the early 19th century. Napoleon rose through the ranks of the French army during the French Revolution, seized control of the French government in 1799, and became emperor in 1804. Through a series of wars, he expanded his empire across Western and Central Europe. However, a disastrous invasion in 1812, coupled with the other defeats, led to his abdication and exile in 1814. He returned to France in 1815 and briefly resumed power. The Battle of Waterloo, in which Napoleon's forces were defeated, signaled the end of his reign and the end of French domination in Europe. After Waterloo, Napoleon was abdicated and later died in exile.